let's go ahead and get started. All right, good evening, everybody. I'm going to call the April 10th special meeting of the Urbana Sustainability Advisory Commission to order. Will staff please call the roll?
Stacy Gloss,
Present.
Dustin Allred,
Present.
Claire Johnson, Todd Rusk,
Here.
Andrew Stump,
Present.
Morgan White, Tesfai Wolde Medine, Scott Tess,
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I get started, and I'm sorry, do you happen to have a copy of the agenda that I could use?
Anyone else?
I left a couple back there.
All right, are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay. So on the agenda this evening is a discussion for a draft resolution of energy and climate funding. I wanted to let the commission know that we'll be having a meeting with the mayor to discuss the resolution this month. So because of that, there could be future changes to the resolution that we're maybe discussing tonight. So I would actually like to hear from the commission if you would like to motion to discuss the resolution as it is this evening without taking any action on it, so no vote this evening, or if there would be a motion to strike the discussion from the agenda this evening and then move that to another SAC meeting after we have the opportunity to talk to the mayor about it.
What do you expect to get from the mayor? What's that conversation about?
That's a great question. I know that she asked to meet with us about the resolution and to provide some additional information and background information, but I don't actually have anything more specific or concrete than that at this time.
I think it's fair to take input, and I would move to discuss it later at another meeting.
I would second that.
Okay. The motion has been discussed to strike the draft resolution from the agenda this evening. It's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor of pushing this off a little bit, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so this evening we won't discuss the draft resolution on energy and climate, and we'll have that in a future meeting. Okay, Scott, would you provide, actually no, is there anybody here from the public this evening that would like to address the commission with any comments or concerns? Okay. Scott, will you please give us your staff report?
Good evening. First, some updates on the Climate Action Plan. We've been working with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association again to do a third round of the Solar Urbana-Champaign Bulk Solar Purchase Program. And the MREA received 5 responses to their request for proposals. So lots of interest. There's a community advisory group from folks from multiple cities that are working with the MREA to score those proposals, and an announcement on a selected vendor should be very soon. And we hope to have some solar power hours starting in April. I wanted to note that staff met with colleagues working on sustainability activities at the University of Costa Rica and the Center for Urban Sustainability in San Jose, Costa Rica recently. That was part of a University of Illinois College of Education Study Abroad program. The pre-service teachers attending the University of Illinois were there to do exchange and learn about environmental education in Costa Rica. So that was a nice opportunity to see what other folks are working on and have an exchange with them. Recently, staff has spoke at University of Illinois' Department of Urban Planning class and about energy and climate activities, and we'll do so again this week at another class at the College of Urban Planning. Regional and Urban Planning, actually, isn't it? Department of Regional and Urban Planning, yes. Moving on to the Sustainable Water Management Plan, the city's accepted a bid from a vendor to conduct a one-day rain barrel and compost bin sale, as we've done many years. The sale will take place in the parking lot north of the city building. It'll be May 5th, which will also be the first Market at the Square day. Our sale will be 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And there's some data here from current sales and also the pricing. So you see we've, for the most part, driven down pricing. We'll see what sales are every year. It seems like we can't possibly keep selling hundreds of rain barrels, but so far we do. So we'll see what happens this year. U-Cycle staff and Park District staff will be conducting a workshop on implementation and best practices for backyard food scrap composting. That will actually be the same day as our rain barrel and compost bin sale. Just turned out that way. We're hoping to feature, to some extent, the products and opportunity of the sale at the educational event, and maybe folks will figure now they know enough and they'll go buy a rain barrel and a compost bin for their house and take that on at their house. U-Cycle staff also is working continuously, as Courtney Kwong does, with the Illinois Product Stewardship Council. They're moving towards a project on medical sharps. Sharps are anything sharp in a medical setting, in a hospital, so needles and scalpels and so forth. The problem that they're addressing is medical sharps, specifically needles that are not being properly disposed of, that is treated as biohazard waste, but are instead just being put in the regular garbage. That's a pretty obvious danger for folks to get an accidental needle stick. So the Illinois Product Stewardship Council is addressing that and just starting to explore the issue with stakeholders. You may remember that this group worked successfully to update and improve and fix the state's electronic recycling law. So they've been around for just a couple years. It's a sort of a subcommittee or subgroup from the National Product Stewardship Council, but been pretty successful in a really short period of time in getting a fix to the electronics recycling law. So it's very exciting that they're taking on medical sharps issues in terms of a product stewardship approach. So we're happy to see that. The next Sustainability Advisory Commission meeting would be May 1st at 7 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you, Scott. Are there any questions from the commission about about his report?
If I could mention one other thing, I've got an updated Environmental Sustainability Division annual report in your packet. I corrected a few things that were mentioned by the commission, formatting on the cover page, the greenhouse gas emissions chart. I added the 100% carbon neutral goal, as a dotted line at the bottom of the chart, and a few other typos and corrections. And my intention is, if there are no other corrections or improvements to it, to put it in packet for committee of the whole.
When would you need corrections or recommendations or revisions by?
Tuesday next week would be fine to make the next committee of the whole packet.
Is the public permitted to send in comments to you as well if
Sure.
they reviewed the packet from this meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
Were there any things worth sharing from your conversation with the Center for Urban Sustainability in Costa Rica, San Jose? Right?
Yeah, lots of interesting things they're working on. The center does some interesting things with the university. Actually, they actually do some consulting on master's and PhD projects and dissertations. So they're sort of working with researchers, and that's really interesting. They also noted that some of their preliminary research shows that perhaps as much as 50% of commuters in San Jose are commuting by foot. They're walking, which is a pretty astounding figure. The rush hour traffic in San Jose is equally astounding, so it's no surprise. But they also have fairly fine-grained street network, although it is not an iron grid. But it's fine-grained and also mixed use, so it's in some ways well set up for commuting by foot. But it's quite congested at rush hour times. It takes forever to get from one side of the city to the other. They're very interested in the Global Covenant of Mayors. They're interested in greenhouse gas accounting, and I hope that we can have some more exchange on that. And they also they're in an interesting position, not unlike the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus in Chicago area, in that they're a foundation that's working to serve a region with many, many municipalities. And so it's quite a challenge. Also presents opportunities where you don't necessarily have to have the largest city move forward with something. You can work on lots of different projects with smaller municipalities. So lots of interesting things going on there.
Are there any other questions about the staff report? Okay. I would like to now open up the floor to the public to ask any questions about the staff report. If you would like to ask a question about that or make a comment, you may do so now. I know a couple of people did come in late after we had the opportunity to give public input. I want to check to see with the commission if it would be all right if I open the floor for public comment on any topic, since we did move through that part of the agenda very quickly just earlier. Would that be okay by members of the commission? Great. Is there anybody that's here from the public that would like to address the commission this evening?
Yes.
All right, Tim, please come up. If you would please, oh, sure, you can pass out documentation.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I apologize for being a little late. I had to get dinner on the table for my two sons, but I'm here.
If you'll please address us from the table.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to turn on the microphone, but also before you're done, please just fill out the information about
Sure.
who you are and what you were speaking about this evening. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Stacy. My name is Tim Montague. I live at 2001 Park Ridge Drive in Urbana. I have been an organizer with Champaign County Sustainability Network for the last 8 years. I work with a group of volunteers organizing educational events for around sustainability, all topics related to sustainability, including renewable energy, waste, water, zero waste manufacturing, and in general conservation of our natural resources. So I come to you tonight as a resident of Urbana and a resident of Champaign County with a call to action. We are in a very unique position here in Central Illinois and in the whole state of Illinois, in that we now have an incredible opportunity to install rooftop and ground mount solar across the state of Illinois. The reason for that is something called the Future Energy Jobs Act, which went into force in June of 2017, just a little less than a year ago. And what FEJA, as we call it in the industry, I happen to be a solar installer professionally, but the Future Energy Jobs Act funds $200 million of resident and commercial off-taker paid incentives. So this is not a tax. This is a fee that you and I are all paying on our power bill every month now, starting in June of 2017. And that accumulates in the coffers of Ameren and ComEd primarily, and then is paid out to solar system owners. So it's a cash incentive. It accumulates to 20 to 30% of a system, though. So if you're buying a $20,000 system, you're getting a check from Ameren for $4,000 to $5,000. And so it's a very substantive, significant cash incentive. So we are going to install 3,000 megawatts of solar power in Illinois in the next decade. To put that in context, we have 100 megawatts of solar today in the whole state of Illinois. So Illinois is a tiny little baby. We are barely crawling when it comes to solar power. California, for some context, has 20,000 megawatts of installed solar today. So we have 100. California has 20,000. They're a good 15 years ahead of us. But the reason I'm here tonight is that there is a solar ordinance, and this is clearly spelled out on the handout, that is being developed by the Zoning Board of Appeals. So this is a volunteer body managed by John Hall. John is the staff person at the County of Champaign. And they are going to develop a solar ordinance. They have been developing a solar ordinance for the last couple of months. And that is then going to go to the ELUC, the Environmental Land Use Committee of the Champaign County Board, and then to the full board. But we are now in a position where there's just 2 more meetings for the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals, where they are going to vote and then finalize moving forward a recommendation to the ELUC. We are in a situation, unfortunately, where the ordinance that they are developing, and there are 7 board members on the ZBA, okay, but there are several board members who would like to see setbacks in the ordinance for solar farms of 500 to 1,000 feet. To put that in context, if you want to develop a meat processing facility in Champaign County, you would have a setback of 300 feet. Okay? That is a big, smelly facility. A solar farm is not a wind farm. A solar farm is not a factory. A solar farm is a facility that generates electricity from sunlight with solar panels. It's very innocuous. It's very quiet. It sits quietly on the landscape. There are significant benefits to Champaign County in the form of green power, in the form of capturing tax incentives, and generating tax revenue. So this is going to be a tremendous bonus for Champaign County if we can get a solar ordinance that is functional and viable. Unfortunately, There is precedent for Champaign County on numerous occasions. If you talk to Bruce Hannon, for example, somebody who's lived in this area his whole life, Bruce started Prairie Rivers Network, and he's a retired professor in the Department of Geography from the U of I. But the main thing related to renewable energy that we have a history for in Champaign County is our wind ordinance. You will notice when you drive around the county, we do not have utility scale wind farms in Champaign County. We have wind farms in Ford County. Okay, we have wind farms in McLean County. We have wind farms in Danville. And so the wind ordinance that we have is prohibitive. If you're a wind developer, you avoid Champaign County like the plague. And that is because of the ordinance. And so these ordinances are extremely instrumental from a commercial perspective. If we
Tim,
develop...
I'll give you about 2 more minutes to speak.
That's fine.
Thank you.
If we have a solar ordinance that has 500 or more foot setbacks, actually, a rule of thumb is 250 feet. So if the ZBA moves forward with greater than 250 foot setbacks, you can kiss solar farm development in Champaign County goodbye. It will not happen. These are developments that take tremendous capital investment from developers like Baywa. Baywa has a solar farm in the works now, along with 4 other developers. Baywa has a large project slated for Sydney. That is a 200 megawatt, 1,200 acre solar farm. So Champaign County has kind of hit the jackpot with the potential for a large renewable energy facility, which is dead on arrival if we do not have less than or equal to 250-foot setbacks. So my call to action to you all is, as community leaders, as caring professionals about sustainability and renewable energy and a cleaner environment, a healthy environment for Champaign County residents, please come out Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the county offices. If you cannot attend the meeting, or if you want to in addition to attending the meeting, which is at 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, 61802. You can also email John Hall, jhall@co.champaign.il.us. Please send him your comments. Please reference the solar ordinance. Please reference, and the call to action really is on the back in bullet points of the one-page handout. Solar is not wind. Solar is good for Champaign County in so many ways. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Tim?
What's the rationale from the county for requiring the setbacks?
That is a very good question. It is a bit of a mystery. There is a very well-known activist in our community who was impacted by a wind farm near Danville and had to move his family away from that area to Champaign County because his family couldn't sleep at night because the wind farm made noise. And that person has now conflated wind farms and solar farms and testified on numerous occasions and brought the residents of Sydney out in I wouldn't say droves, but in numbers. So the board is now somewhat confused and fearful that solar farms mean disruption of farm life, for lack of a better expression. The concerns are potential noise, very, very little noise from a solar farm compared to a wind farm for sure. Visual pollution, a change in the landscape. A solar farm is not a field, corn and beans, or just a fallow field. Although there are many benefits to the land, including letting the land rest and recuperate. So those are the main concerns. But there really is no precedent in Illinois or elsewhere for such large setbacks. And it comes from a place of fear. We are going to see a change to our landscape, and we don't want that.
I'm wondering if the zoning board were to vote to do setbacks according to the preference in here, say less than 250 feet.
Yeah.
What would that mean for development? And I guess, can you imagine or project the scale of the development and the say potential acres impacted?
Yeah, for sure. So I mentioned earlier in my testimony that we are going to install 3,000 megawatts of solar in Illinois in the next decade, thanks to FEJA. What that translates into in terms of landscape impact is 15,000 acres. If all of the solar, about a third of it is going to be rooftop solar, but if all of it were solar farms, let's just say worst case scenario, that would be 15,000 acres of solar farms.
Across all of Illinois?
Across all of Illinois.
Okay.
We have 638,000 acres of land in Champaign County alone. So if all the solar farms were built in Champaign County, that would be 2.3% of the Champaign County landscape. So it's a fraction of the Illinois landscape, and that's indeed what is happening is these projects are being developed statewide. We as Champaign County residents are paying into FEJA, but we only really benefit if we also participate in the installation of solar.
So, I know, so can you kind of scale it down to Champaign County? So, what did you say, 15,000 megawatts?
3,000 megawatts,
3,000
15,000
megawatts.
acres.
Okay, so if we scale it down to Champaign County and just, using
Yeah.
rough approximations, what does it look like in megawatts and acreage?
Yeah, so when I say we hit the jackpot with the utility scale projects, most counties will never see a utility scale project. But we do have a utility scale project that is in permitting. That is a 1,200 acre, 200 megawatt project. The rest of the projects, and there's 5 other projects, those are all 10 to 15 acre projects. Those are what we call community solar. Those are 2 megawatt projects. So they're 1/100th the size of the Sydney project. So all said, if a best case scenario is 1,500 acres in Champaign County, that would be amazing if we had 1,500 acres of solar farms as a result of FEJA.
Thanks.
Tim, is there, I'm curious about the terminology, and I've been wondering this. Is there a difference between a setback or a buffer zone? If I guess I'm wondering how a 500-foot or 1,000-foot setback would impact. So if you were to take my house, for example, it is in the middle of town, but let's say that it was not in the middle of town, that it was actually in the countryside. If there needed to be a 500 or 1,000-foot setback from a house, or from my house, are we talking about property line? Are we talking about the residential structure? Additionally, would it be a radius around the home, depending on, like, what does that look like?
So that's a little tricky to answer. The setback requirements vary by the size of the parcel in question and whether a parcel has a residence on it. But so the setbacks definitely apply to residences, and then they also apply to property lines of parcels that are 5 acres or smaller. So if you have a small parcel, you're talking about setting back from all of the property lines on that parcel. And what that does is that protects those residents who are living on a small parcel out in the country, say a 3 or 5 acre parcel. Those size parcels are not unusual. And just for some context, there are 16 homes that are directly impacted by the Sydney solar farm that Baywa Re, the solar energy developer, is proposing for Sydney, which is a small community 10 miles southeast of Urbana. So it's a small number of homes, but some of them will be surrounded on three sides potentially. And by all means, the developer wants to work with those homeowners and landowners and residents to make sure that they have the necessary screening and setbacks to maintain the quality of life that they're used to.
And a follow-up question to that, not about the Baywa project specifically, but how would a smaller community scale project on the order of 10 to 15 acres be impacted by a 500 or 1,000 foot setback?
The setbacks greater than 250 feet, unfortunately, will stop all solar farm development in Champaign County. While these small projects, 10 to 15 acre projects, have, of course, a much lesser impact on whatever community they're going into, they're not going to happen because 10 acres is a very small piece of land. It's 660 feet on a square side. It's a square 660 feet on a side. So it's 2 football fields squared. And so when you start to get into these 250-foot setbacks, that just eats up these parcels.
Could I ask a question of clarification? Okay, so and nothing mentioned here is anything to say don't come out and support this, coming to the meeting on Thursday and offering support. But I've got a question, I've got a copy of the proposed solar ordinance,
Yep.
and I'm looking at the minimum standard construction conditions for separations for a PV solar farm from adjacent uses and structures. And there's a whole list of them. There's like 7, so it's very complicated.
Yeah.
It does say, the first one is a setback of 55 feet from a minor street, and then different setbacks for larger roads. And then the second one is at least 100 feet from any existing dwelling or existing principal building, and not less than 50 feet from the property line of any adjacent lot that is 3 acres or less in area, so those small home lots.
Yep.
And provided that the noise level caused by the PV solar farm complies with the applicable Illinois Pollution Control Board regulations. So there's flat distance setbacks, as well as
Yep.
making sure you meet the noise concerns.
Yep.
And then they say a separation of at least 500 feet from any of the following unless you submit a glare analysis. And those following things are any airport within 5 miles, any restricted landing area, or any residential airport that existed or has submitted a special use permit application. And then it goes on to say a separation of at least 500 feet between substations and transmission lines to adjacent dwellings and residential districts. And I haven't found anything about 1,000-foot setbacks, and that last one was the only thing I found about 500-foot setbacks. And I am concerned because I have to write a staff report on this. So this is the most recent version that I've received from the county. Are there other places where, or are they, and this was just an attachment, are they pushing in discussion for larger setbacks than what's in the current draft?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that was my question.
Yes, and I am not an expert on the Zoning Board of Appeals, how it functions, but I had a phone call with John Hall on Monday morning to review the situation, and he is currently not going to, he's not comfortable moving forward with anything less than 300-foot setbacks based on the comments that have been made by the ZBA board members. And so this is a fluid situation. That's the past, and I'm in the present, and I'm trying to motivate the community to come out and create the future. But we have a very short time frame on our hands, and but good points. Yeah, I think that's my response to that.
I'll take one or two more questions from the commission, and then I think that we need to move on.
Can I make a comment? I know I missed the beginning, but was there some discussion amongst the commissioners that we do support, people should go and comment on this? And I know we can't do a vote, but was there some discussion of where we stand?
Tim has urged us to submit comments and to speak at a zoning planning meeting. But we have not discussed any action that we would take or expressed any support or non-support in either way.
So, speaking for myself, I am very supportive of your efforts, and I'm really glad that you came here, and I hope that you have been welcomed several places to share this information. And, you know, I'm hoping that the university community, as individuals, choose to also show up at the meetings and show support. We have climate commitments all over the place, and we need to actually speak up in order to make a difference. And so I'm really glad you've been staying informed about this, and I'm very appreciative of what you've been doing. And I
Thank you,
encourage you to
Morgan.
keep going.
The other talking point that's not on my handout is for us to all encourage the ZBA members and county board members, because this will eventually land on the plate of the county board, the ELUC, which is county board, a subset of the county board, to visit the U of I solar farm, because that is the only substantial solar farm that we have in Champaign County. I mean, there's a 1 megawatt project up in Rantoul. It's very much off the beaten path. Unless you're really an adventurer, it's hard to find. But the solar farm at the U of I is right there and very accessible. There is a road on the south side that you can just drive out onto. You can take photographs, you can listen to it, you can, check it out. And I encourage you all to do that, but also for us to encourage the ZBA members, because you quickly realize this is not a big, scary thing.
It doesn't feel like walking through an alien landscape, which is what a wind farm feels like to me. Like, what are all these things? But solar farm doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, and that is a major hurdle because these residents are saying, well, hey, we live out in the country, and some of them do. Many of them live in the town of Sydney also, which is a small farm town, like any farm town around Central Illinois. And it's easy to think, oh, well, this is going to be a huge, dramatic difference. But I have sent photographs to the ZBA where I measured a distance of 250 feet from the solar farm and taken photographs. And you quickly see that the fence line and the panels start to melt into the horizon. There's going to be a screening requirement in the ordinance that requires the developer to plant vegetation like a hedge or whatever's and again, the developer really wants to work with landowners and residents and neighbors. They don't want to cause a disturbance. But there's ample ways to counteract the change that's coming.
Thank you.
One last thing, this is after the next ZBA, but Bill McKibben of 350.org is speaking on campus on Friday at noon, and that's another opportunity for this community to get the community's attention, to not only attend that talk, but to encourage Mr. McKibben to address a local issue. I mean, literally, we will not have solar farms, just like we do not have wind farms, if we get a bad solar ordinance. And you know, it's really a travesty because we're all paying for that development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on our agenda this evening is an exercise revisioning the Lincoln Square Mall and the surrounding area. Marcus will be working with us. We're doing things a little bit differently, so we're supposed to set up the room a little bit differently, is that right? What are we doing here?
Well, you're going to hear a presentation first. Because we want them to focus on the presentation. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being willing to help vision the square. We are working on an initiative that is supported by Mayor Diane Wolf Marlin and supported by many city staff from the Planning Division as well as other divisions of Community Development Services, Public Works, and other departments throughout the city. We're trying to better connect the Lincoln Square site to campus, Main Street, and other surrounding neighborhoods. And we are taking this visioning process to special groups such as the Plan Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, City Council, Sustainability Advisory Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Urbana Free Library staff, and other public groups. And then we'll be taking these into a charrette sort of format with the general public. And so there are ongoing and planned projects that are going to be integrating with this initiative, such as MCOR, which is going to be continuing down Green Street next year, better connecting this site with campus. And then we'll be getting your input and feedback on what you would like to see in Lincoln Square. And it's not the end of the presentation. So the site that we're looking at is 17 acres almost, and it covers a 9-block square area. The city is really committed to energizing Urbana's downtown, and the square is a significant part of that downtown. Its size makes it an anchor or a weight, depending on its economic vitality. Hundreds of people are employed at the square, and its economic viability depends on a critical mass of both mall residents and visitors. Two of the major landowners, the mall owner and the city, are collaborating to find out what the public wants to see in their square. The original Tudor style hotel, designed by Joseph Royer, was built in 1923. The hotel first went bankrupt in 1937. It was then taken over in 1944 and modernized. Then the mall was actually built as an extension of the hotel in 1964, and this was one of the first fully enclosed shopping malls in Illinois. The hotel closed again in 1975, and then it was bought by the Jumers hotel chain and soon reopened. And then finally, the hotel addition was built in 1982. This is the portion that we see most of outside. The mall itself was listed on the Register of Historic Places in 2006. And then most recently, the hotel was bought by a new developer in 2010, but it has been closed since 2015. So there's been a lot of activity, a lot of history in this area. Do we want to see it continue as a shopping mall and as a hotel, or does it need to evolve past its current uses? This is an aerial view of the 17-acre area. It covers approximately 9 blocks, and it's bounded by Elm Street here on the north and Race Street on the west, Illinois Street on the east, and Vine Street on the south, and Vine Street on the east. Several landmarks are here. We've got the city building is off to the east here. We've got the U.S. District Courthouse, as well as the U.S. Post Office and the IMC. And over here to the northwest, we have Busey Bank and the Urbana Free Library, as well as First Methodist Church and the 402 South Race Street apartments. So to get you kind of thinking about the planning exercise, we're going to do a little short exercise to get you thinking about what you'd like to see in your next great public space. I'd like you to take a few moments to think about a great public space that you've been to already. It could be someplace local. It could be someplace that you have traveled to, either within the state of Illinois or in the United States or globally. And then I want you to close your eyes and imagine you're there. Okay, take a minute. What makes this place great that you've been to? What are you doing there? What's going on around you? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting or feeling? All of these things that are making this place a great public space. Would you pass those sheets around? So, as you're thinking about this, does everybody have a pen or something else to write with? No. Just for you. This is your exercise. So, write down the first thoughts that come to your mind about this great place. What made it great for you? In question number 1, exercise 1, a great place. take another 30 seconds to finish up, and we'll move on. Okay, let's do this. All right, so Barb, what are your memories of your great public space? Don't tell me where it was yet.
It's an open market that has it doesn't have physical walls, but you can go from one shop to another, and it has food and spices and teas and just a bakery, a whole array upstairs. It had a yoga studio and a playroom for kids. So.
Cool, okay. Scott?
One of the places I was thinking of has a small public space in it that has elevation changes so that folks can sit in semi-formal intended seating and sort of look down and look up.
Okay. All right. Tessé?
What came to mind for me is when I travel, especially in Italy, there are large public spaces like in Rome,
Okay.
other cities where there are lots of people, most of them walking, and lots of different public services, all kinds, almost all kinds are available, and easy access.
Okay.
And architecture, beautiful architecture.
Okay.
So that's the kinds of things that we do.
All right. Dustin, your memories.
Someplace that has a mix of activities, so something that, you know, it could be cafes or restaurants or shops or just spaces that have, you know, the necessary furniture and landscaping that people can just hang out and you don't have to be necessarily buying things or.
Okay. All right. Stacy?
One of the memories I have of a great public space was the ability for the sort of community that if they were concerned about issues could come out to that public space and pass out flyers or do a little demonstration or sing songs together
Okay.
on a stage, and that was just perfectly okay.
Okay. So like a free speech component.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Todd?
Think of central public plazas with green space
Okay.
and social space and bordering commercial, commercial businesses and street food and market stuff.
Okay. All right. Morgan?
So a lot of what folks said already. Scott was talking about elevation changes, but one of the things I like is stuff to look at that's close and stuff that's far.
Okay.
So it's not all sort of the same distance. Like right now, these walls are all the same distance,
Right.
or approximately. Also, you were talking about green space, but I specifically, like, I just need trees. They have to be not just flowers and grass and shrubs, but trees. Those matter a lot to me. They make me feel comfort, and I feel like there's fresher air when there are trees around. I notice it. But then for the people, I like to see different. I really like the diversity of people. So if it's a place where it's not just all, worker groups or all children, but like families and retirees and young and the old, a lot of different age groups and backgrounds.
Okay.
And then the thing that nobody said yet was music. I just adore having music and great public spaces.
Okay, all right, good. Claire?
I also thought about plazas. I remember when I was in Bolivia for a couple of weeks, we would go out to the plaza every night, and that was like everybody would gather there. And it was also like all ages of people. There would be like older couples strolling and like teenagers breakdancing, which was really fun to watch every night.
Okay.
And people selling ice cream and food, and there are stores all around, and lots of greenery and little separate sitting areas for people to talk.
Okay, cool. Andrew?
I guess I took it, be more generic, I guess. So it'll be somewhere you could escape from the city
Okay,
and has its own character and be clean and organized and had barriers from the outside of the other space.
okay, all right. So it sounds like people had some really good, memories of great public spaces, places that they've been to. So the next step is really to try and bring those attributes to Urbana. So the next exercise is what I'm calling the square cloud. So exercise number 2 on your sheet there is, there's 6 blanks, and I'd like you to put down 6 feeling words or action words that you would like to see incorporated into the square. And the square isn't just a building, it's that 9-block, 17-acre space. It doesn't have to be anything that we've got there now or necessarily from your great public space, just what you think would be good for Urbana's square. Take a couple minutes to do that.
Did you say action words?
Action words or feeling words. Adjectives and verbs. No nouns. And you've got to be choosy because you've only got 6 spaces. Right, this goes into 2A. Oh. There's a front and a back. Because I reused paper. So you should be using the side with 6 blanks for 2A. Take another 30 seconds and we will move on. Okay, we're going to move on to 2B, which is, I'd like you to list 4 activities or destinations that you would like to experience at the square. Sure, sure. 4 activities or destinations you would like to see at the square. So it could be, I'm not going to give you too many examples, but if there's a type of shop, or if there's a type of eating or drinking thing, or some sort of entertainment or other life experience you would like to have happen there. Take another few seconds and then we will move on to the next bit. Okay, so Andrew, give me one of your feeling words and one of your doing words that you put down. Okay. And what would you like to do there? Natural? Okay. Claire, how about you? One feeling word.
I said safe. And
Okay.
then doings, I said eating.
Okay. Always a good choice. And Todd, what's one of your feeling words?
So one feeling word is free.
Like no cost or like happy-go-lucky?
I feel free.
Okay. And a doing word.
Loiter.
Okay. Morgan.
Well, let's see. I see relax. Okay, let me. Yeah. Okay.
You're allowed a mulligan.
Celebrate.
Under doings?
Yeah.
Okay. Morgan, a feeling.
Family friendly.
Okay. And what about a doing?
A bar with music,
Okay.
of course.
And Stacy, a feeling.
So I'm really hungry right now, so this is going to come out in my answers.
Good.
But my feeling was delicious.
Okay. Nobody wants to eat bad food. And what would you like to do there?
Well, I active is a doing
Okay.
type word.
And Dustin.
Noisy?
Okay. And what kind of doing would you like to do?
Browsing?
Browsing. And Tesfaye, how about a feeling?
Enjoying.
Enjoying? Okay. And what kind of doing would you like to do?
Drinking coffee.
Okay. And Scott, how are you feeling?
Enclosed.
Okay. And what kind of doing?
Listening.
And Barb?
Energize.
Okay, all good words. And what kind of doing would you like to do?
Playing.
Okay. All right. Great, great, great words.
Can I
And-
change mine?
Sure,
I'm going to change it
You-
from active to more of a doing word.
Okay.
Dancing.
dancing. All right. So our hope is to do this same activity with all of these other groups and to bring all of their words together and see what kind of bubbles up to the top in that whole little word cloud exercise where the things that get mentioned the most often become big and are easy for us planners to figure out what people feel is the most important thing to do there. So now let's do the most fun planning thing, which is mapping your square. So what we're going to do is break you up into 2 groups of 4, including staff. And there are maps set up on either side of the room with markers. Please take your handouts with you. If you get overwhelmed and don't really know what to put on the map, you can look at your handouts and think about your great space, think about your feeling and doing words. Here are the rules on the map. There aren't any rules. Let your imagination run wild. There's no cost parameters. There's no regulation parameters. Put whatever you think would be fun there that you would go do. You can put in new buildings, new pathways or streets, new open spaces. You can renovate or reuse or replace existing buildings or spaces. You do have to document on the map whatever you want to see so that we can take that in and figure out what everybody wants to see there from all of these different exercises that we do. So there's a piece of tracing paper over a big aerial map with the square kind of marked out on it with a north arrow so you know where you are. And we're going to give you about 15 minutes to draw whatever you like. Label it, please, so that we can tell what it is and make sure your handwriting's legible. Ms. White.
Is this a group exercise?
This is a group exercise. So you should discuss with your group members what you as a group would like to see. And if not everybody in your group agrees, it's not necessarily a consensus thing. But maybe if everybody agrees on it, you could put a bunch of stars next to it. Or if only one person likes that idea, they can just put down one person like this. Make sense? Other questions?
Is there a limit of the number of things that we should put?
No, no limit, no rules. There are no roads where we're going. Okay.
Thank God.
So anything that you think can be brought to this site. Okay? All right. Let's have fun.
Well done. We can see.
Shall
we
I
can see it on the
proceed?
camera, please. Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Okay. Tell
so-
us about your city.
Hold on, he said. Did you say hold on? All right.
Get rid of what's on the
Oh.
screen
Doesn't. It's not on the screen though. Okay. Did we mess it up? So shall I proceed now? Okay. So here we started with looking at this place across from the existing Urbana parking deck, and we feel that the Jumers, or whatever it's currently called, hotel, should be taken down. We should remove that entirely. And so there's a scratch of taking that out. And then this whole parking area here can be transformed into a green space with fountains. It's a plaza. It's this social area with the seating and all the things we were talking about. Playgrounds, lots of really good, healthy trees. We are excited about having lots of healthy trees. See, it says that. We don't want the little scrawny ones that can't survive with the impermeable pavement that's there now. We want it to be really nice and comfortable and fun. We were thinking about things that could make it fun, so we suggested a skating area that could work both as for rollerblades and with ice. And also, we wanted to close the street Elm from Race to Broadway to really make this more of a pedestrian, bicycle-friendly area. We looked at the connection from Green Street with MCOR coming in. We wanted to make sure that there's a welcome space here. I mean, the street it's for motor vehicles, so we want to note that where to go to park and definitely have some sort of entry symbol or sign of some kind there. On the building itself, we wanted to keep a lot of what's in there other than the hotel, and we wanted to upgrade it and make it more comfortable. So one of the main upgrades that we think is vital is to fix the bathrooms. There should be more, there should be better, they should be more accessible, there should be some gender neutral bathrooms or unisex, whatever they're called now, and not just in the one space on the first floor and down in the basement, but more conveniently located around the building. The rest of the building we wanted to keep the same outline, and a lot of the stuff that's in there we really like and we don't want to lose. We want to still have the yoga and the common ground and the gym, for example. But then we wanted to look at adding a coffee shop and trying to find something that would be good for the kids, like a children's museum or activity space for them to be able to come after school, especially like high schoolers would like to be able to go there and buy a snack food or something. That would be between 3 and 6 during the afternoon. We also talked about it'd be nice to have craft beer, music. I think that can you scoot this way just a little? So, what's it say? Keep for
shops and food.
Oh, right. So we want to keep the building for the shops. Okay. And
open atrium.
so then we also talked about having this connection corridor through the building. We want to keep the roof, but we want to open it up so you could have 24 access for bicyclists and pedestrians to go through on Broadway or Green Street as if it were still a road but closed to motor vehicles. It would just be non-motorized bikes and pedestrians. And then we were talking about having the building, because we're going to take out the hotel, still have a little space on this edge, maybe some like a buffer between that and the throughway for the bikes and pedestrians. And then in the center, right now it's offset in the building and the edges are very sharp. They're like 90-degree turns to go around the corners. And we were talking about opening that up, like cut away some of those corners inside so you have more of an open space to be able to gather a bit of a plaza in the middle, like an open atrium. And we talked about the roof. We want to have solar panels on the roof, but this would actually be a really great place to have a community solar installation, and it would be even better if we could make the roof accessible to the public so that people who join the community solar could go there and interact with the solar panels and have that experience of being on a roof, which is always fun. And then we started talking about the farmers market. We really like that. We want to definitely keep it, but see if we can help get more shade there, maybe with some solar pergolas, or with maybe there could be stronger, healthier trees. And part of the issue, again, is the existing pavement. So we were looking at permeable pavement. We also talked about and would like to see consolidated parking in like a parking deck. So we suggested this size, and then we showed a couple different options of where it could go. And the idea would be that this deck would replace the surface parking lot. So it'd be a one-to-one exchange, but you'd have more space to open up and less of this asphalt desert kind of experience. And then at the corner by Illinois and Green Street, have that parking area turn into a rain garden with a fountain and some nice natural areas. Have the some of the open spaces that then would be available, because they would no longer have to be surface parking, we could add a new like light, eco-friendly, eco-industrial company of some kind, like maybe a waste-to-energy plant. So waste-to-energy has a lot of possibilities in our area. It could help with a lot of our zero waste goals for the community, and it could provide renewable or cleaner energy options for the building and the other groups around it. And then I think we had a couple other things. Oh, we wanted to have this connection open back up. So this is actually a connection to Crane Alley right now. And so we wanted to widen that and emphasize it a little bit more, so you get some more continuity and connectivity to the rest of the community. And then we decided that it'd be nice to have a parallel on the other side, which doesn't really have a name, so we could have naming right. You know, you could name it something awesome. And I think that was everything. Did I mix anything? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dad.
Who's going to speak and hold for the other group?
So I guess our main thing, or at least one of the main things, was to reintroduce the grid street network to a large degree. Is this upside down? No. So connecting Green Street back through, and then also, what would this be, Illinois, I guess? Or no?
Illinois is on the farther south. It's
High Street, yeah, that's right, High Street. I used to live on High Street. Should know that. As well, at least Green Street as being open to cars, and then north-south reconnecting Broadway through, which means that we're pretty much kind of slicing and dicing the current mall and only saving certain parts of it. But the Broadway corridor would be, for the most part, pedestrianized with limited access to delivery vehicles, and then this would be where we would have a linear kind of farmer's market as opposed to the farmer's market where it is currently. In the parts of the mall that we would keep, we'd have things like pop-ups and lots of generally mixed-use buildings that have ground floor commercial retail and residences above that would include a lot of the current uses that people like the co-op, but also yoga studios and salad bars and smoothies, and kombucha too. Oh, and then the other, I think, main kind of structuring element of this is that we are envisioning a big square in the middle that would be enclosed by kind of mixed-use buildings again. And this would be, a mix of cafes and restaurants along the perimeter, enclosing a green space that has lots of trees to provide shade, and then also a stage for performances to sing songs, is it? Or?
Well, it could be that, or community theater, or pop-up shows.
What else? Oh, and then we wanted to provide space for the youth, and we thought since we're pretty close to the high school and the middle school, it would be good down in the bottom corner of the site to have something like a skate park with a climbing wall. I think that's it. I don't know. Am I missing anything?
The bookstore
We talked about keeping
or
the hotel.
cafe shop. The,
Cafe what?
we talked a lot about
Oh,
the
the
gla-
cafe,
that
yeah.
glass space that's across the street from.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Across from the library, there's a cafe with glass roof, something that people would be able to frequent and use summer and winter and still be able to be outside. The hotel we talked about keeping as it doesn't have to be a hotel, but it's a building that has a certain amount of atmosphere that could be repurposed as something, the yoga studio maybe. And then connect that with a kind of promenade to the square in the middle. And then another just sort of idea for large spaces would be something like a cinema that has serves food and beer and wine and stuff like that. Group.
Okay, thank you all for participating in our Visioning the Square exercise. We will be adding these ideas and mapping suggestions to our growing list of public ideas. And keep an eye out on the city's website. Eventually, there will be a Visioning the Square site where we will be putting up the input that we get from folks. Thank you. Oh, and at the end of the meeting, while you all still are adding up on your final comments on number 3, I will take those sheets from you.
Thanks, Marcus. That was kind of a fun activity and a little bit different than we usually do at the SAC. So thank you for leading us in that exercise. I really look forward to what the rest of the community comes up with at various meetings, and I maybe don't envy you having to take all of these maps, or your team, and trying to put them all together in a cohesive kind of way. So that ought to be a fun project.
And I
for
do
you.
want to reinforce that we will be opening this up to the general public to do these kind of activities. So keep an eye out on the website for invitations to come and give us your comments in that venue. Thank you.
Marcus, how long is the schedule for this visioning process? Like, is it going through months and months or weeks?
It'll be going through the summer, I am sure.
Would you see it continuing at least into August when the new students come to the U of I?
I'm pretty sure it'll go into August as well. Yes.
All right, I'm going to quickly move in through our announcements portion of our agenda this evening. On announcements, we have the Bill McKibben talk, Building a Better Environmental Movement at the, it says here the University YMCA, but I thought that was going to be held in Eikenberry Commons. Okay, be sure to verify that the Bill McKibben talk will be in the Eikenberry Commons on April 13th at noon. So that's this Friday. Also, a presentation at the Champaign Public Library called Riding a Bike Instead of Driving a Car is Good for the Environment, but How Much? That will be presented by Leonardo Covis in the Robeson Pavilion Room on April the 18th at 7 p.m. And be sure to check out the Backyard Composting Workshop at the Anita Purves Nature Center on May 5th at 10 o'clock in the morning. And don't forget to pick up your rain barrels at the bulk rain. Wait, is it the pickup day, Scott? The bulk rain barrel and compost sale?
You can pre-order and you can buy day of.
Okay, and purchase or picking up on May 5th from 10 to 1 in the parking lot north of the city building. Thank you all for coming to our meeting this evening. Would anybody like to move to adjourn?
So moved.
I second.
Thank you very much. All in favor of adjourning at 9 o'clock, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, everybody have a great night.